Hi guys, I can't believe it, but today is the last day of lessons. And so I thought, what better way to close out the year than to read to you the story, Last Day Blues. I hope you remember that on the first day of school, I read you the story by this author called First Day Jitters. And if you remember Mrs. Sarah Hartwell, we didn't know it was the teacher at the time when we first started reading it, but she was really nervous about starting to teach in a new school. And her husband kind of had to drag her there. So it'll be interesting to see how things worked out and how her last day at the school for that school year ends up. So this book is called Last Day Blues by Julie Danberg. Last Day Blues. On the Monday morning before the Friday that was the last day of school, Mrs. Hartwell took attendance. She sighed as she called out the last name. "I'm going to miss you," she said. The kids nodded in agreement. "I'm going to miss my friends," said Shannon. "I'm going to miss Daisy," said Dan. "I'm going to miss chocolate milk and pizza for lunch," said Joe. And looky here, Daisy's a snake. Everyone felt a little blue thinking about the last day of school, even Daisy. That afternoon during recess, the students talked as they hung out on the jungle gym. "Mrs. Hartwell said she's going to miss us," said Alexander, swinging from a bar. We should get a present to cheer her up," said Eddie, hanging upside down by his knees. "But what should we get her?" "I could give her the rest of my sandwich. It's my mom's bologna special," said Josh. "Or a coffee cup, or a new pin, the kind with feathers and beads." The students thought and thought, but just couldn't come up with one single idea that they all agreed on. "We'll think of something tomorrow," Eddie assured everyone as they lined up at the drinking fountain. On the Tuesday before the Friday that was the last day of school, Mrs. Hartwell read the final page of their last read aloud book. "I'm going to miss circle time," said Mrs. Hartwell. "I'm going to miss science," said Emily. "I'm going to miss seeing Mrs. Hartwell wear her safety goggles through science," said Jack, giggling. And before they got too sad, Mrs. Hartwell put on her safety glasses one last time, just for fun. We definitely need to cheer up Mrs. Hartwell, said Andy during recess as he jumped out of a swing. "Any ideas about a present?" Eddie asked. "Nope," they all answered back. Pages are sticking together. I'm sorry. "I don't know whether to be happy or sad today," Andy said the minute they all arrived at the jungle gym. "Mrs. Hartwell is sad," said Olivia. "She probably doesn't want the year to end." "While we're swimming, she'll be reading her old lesson plan," said Walker. "And while we're playing, she'll be trying to remember the fun times we had this year," said Dan. And that's when an idea zip, zapped, and zinged through Eddie's brain. "I know exactly what will cheer her up," Eddie said, jumping down from the jungle gym. The class agreed it was perfect. On the Thursday before the Friday that was the last day of school, Eddie raised his hand right after Mrs. Hartwell started language arts. "We need some privacy, please," he said. And so Mrs. Hartwell took down bulletin boards with her back to the class. She never even peeked. Well, only once. On the morning of the last Friday, that was the Friday, on the morning of the Friday that was the last day of school, the students dashed into the classroom. They snapped open the shades for the very last time. They did their chores for the very last time. They fed Daisy for the very last time. And as soon as the bell rang, they couldn't wait for Mrs. Hartwell to see her present for the very first time. The last day of school makes us so blue. We'll miss recess and pizza and reading too. We'll miss Daisy and cookies and friendships true, snack time and science and learning new. We'll miss spelling bees for our test review and groundings that play peekaboo. The year's been great, a big wahoo. There are many things to miss, it's true, but mostly we'll miss you. So the kids wrote Mrs. Hartwell a poem. Isn't that sweet? Later on during recess, Eddie said, "I think Mrs. Hartwell liked her present." "I just hope it helps," Margaret said. "Poor Mrs. Hartwell," they all said sadly as they pictured their final goodbye. "Teachers must hate the last day of school." And then it was time. The bell rang. "Goodbye," the students called as they rushed out the door. "Goodbye," Mrs. Hartwell called after them. And then she returned to her empty classroom. "It's just you and me, Daisy," she said. "I'm sure going to miss them this summer." But I can't wait for vacation. Last page is just pictures. So I just want to say, guys, I've loved having you in my classroom. I'm really excited for summertime, but I'm sad that our school year had to end the way it did with us being apart. Just know Miss Bruns loves you, and I cannot wait to see you next year as big second graders. Have a wonderful summer. I love you all so much. Bye now.